I want to talk with Gary and Mike. I want to talk. I want to talk with Gary and Mike. I want to talk. Come to me and say you're dropping out of college because you don't know how to pay, and I said no. No. Wake one day and say you're closing up your business because you don't know how to pay, and I said no. We know the world and all its problems can be scary. Pick up the phone and call and talk to Mike and Gary. I want to talk. I want to talk with Gary and Mike. I want to talk. I want to talk with Gary and Mike.
Good Saturday morning, Syracuse, and welcome to the Gary and Mike Show in your business on the new 105.9 FM, The Big Talker. Got my cohort, my partner in crime, Gary Lucas, next to me. We also have a new addition to the show. We call him the Gary and Mike Robin Quivers. We have Brian Foster, CPA, CFP, sitting here. He's going to give us an expert take on the tax side, on the health side, on all the stuff that Gary and I don't want to talk about anymore.
That's exactly correct. In fact, we made Brian a permanent member of the show. We found ourselves calling him, asking questions, and thought, you know what, Brian, why don't you just come on the show with us, and that way we can bounce ideas off each other. So we're certainly happy to have you here with us on the show.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's good to be here.
Let's see. On the show today, we've got, I tell you what, I think this is the best show we've ever had by far. We've got a lot of good things that we're going to talk about today. First thing, as far as I mentioned last time on the show, the college side. If you are a parent and your child just finished his first semester, or you got a child in college, we're going to be talking about the one form that you absolutely must have to get a college education credit on your tax return. I think I stumbled over education. Education credit on your tax return. I can tell you, I deal with hundreds of families each year. About 25% of them don't end up with a tax credit because they don't have this form. We're going to tell you what it is. Also, it's FAFSA filing season, or financial aid filing season. We're going to be talking about the absolute biggest mistake that families make when filling out that form. And in fact, it cost me personally $23,000 of free money when I went to college. And that was, over a decade ago. Right. So it's going to cost you much more now. So we're going to talk about that. Also,
we got Robbie Battaglia coming in from the Allstate Insurance Agency in Camillus. He's going to give us his point of view on the insurance side of the topics. We're going to talk a little bit about how not to get yourself in trouble by changing your domicile to become a Florida resident to skate under the radar for those New York State income taxes. A lot of people get in trouble nowadays doing that. I see it more and more often. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Brian's going to Brian, what are you going to talk about?
I'm going to talk about the quote-unquote Affordable Care Act, a.k.a. Obamacare, which ironically will probably make healthcare less affordable than it's ever been. But we'll talk about that later on.
Less affordable? I thought it was supposed to be more affordable. I mean, isn't that why he's going to take this health insurance plan himself for him and his family?
Let's take it. Let's go to somebody who's much smarter than I am. The great economist Milton Friedman. Yeah. His quote was, "If the federal government was in charge of the Sahara Desert in 20 years, you wouldn't have any more sand." So.
Phenomenal.
Oh, unbelievable. You know what? Let's talk about while we're on the subject of Politico. I want to mention something, and I promise that there'll be a point, and I want to grab you guys' opinion. But it's sort of the blame game. It seems like now everybody's trying to blame everybody else for something, and quite frankly, personally, it drives me up a wall. The biggest thing in the news as of late is this shooting at poor Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, and you hear, especially on the liberal side of things, that of course it's the Tea Party activists and the right-wing Republicans that that the reason why she got shot.
It's their fault.
Yes, if that isn't the biggest crock of whatever. It's everybody's always trying to blame somebody else, and I'm going to tell you here on the show, and if you're listening, maybe you should be thankful. I'm going to tell you whose fault it really was. It's the guy that shot her's fault.
Right.
That's whose fault it is. It is. Maybe potentially somebody's parents can get involved. It just seems like everybody's trying to blame somebody else. The other thing, I saw an article about Nancy Pelosi, who blamed the reason why she is no longer Speaker of the House was because of George Bush.
Oh, it's his fault.
Yeah,
right.
really,
Okay.
people? No, Nancy Pelosi, you're not Speaker of the House because you stunk at it. You had crap policies, and that's why you lost. In fact, I read an article locally about Dan Maffei, who said that he lost the election to Anne-Marie Burkle because of funding and because he didn't get his message across. No, Dan, if you're listening, and he probably, of course, isn't, but if anybody's wondering, he lost because he wasn't a good congressman.
Right.
People, you need to start blaming yourselves. If you lost, it's your fault.
Well, Gare, I could see Dan Maffei, but remember one thing about Nancy Pelosi. She's crazy.
that may be true. You know, same thing. You know, you hear Barack Obama, and you know, it was George Bush's fault this, George Bush's fault that. Now, I will say that on the other end of the spectrum, I hear right-wing Republicans talking about, you know, yeah, Bill Clinton, he enjoyed Ronald Reagan's, you know, trickle-down economy. Well, look, I think as Barack Obama proved, you can screw up an economy in 5 minutes if you want to.
Absolutely.
So maybe it was the lack of screwing something up. But look, you know, it's the people that's in power. It's their responsibility, and you got to give either them credit if they do something right, or blame if they do something wrong. So those people, look, it's your own fault. And the reason I want to bring that up is this: for investing purposes, I want to bring it back a few years to the Enron scandal. And you had people that had their 401k plans, and they were greedy people that essentially invested all of their retirement into the Enron stock.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they lost out. And what they do is you can blame the accountants, you can blame the crooked people at the top, which of course they certainly were, but ultimately the responsibility for this stuff rests on your own hands. Okay,
It's
so
on the investor, absolutely.
it is. You can't be greedy and put all your eggs in one basket. And so I want that to be a lesson, at least to those people that are out here listening. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. You don't want to make sure that you're not protected. Now, we got Rob Battaglia from Allstate coming in is going to tell you, you know, if you've got a $300,000, $400,000, even $100,000 home, you probably want to insure it. Okay, it's a big asset. If you've got a $500,000, $100,000, $5 million retirement program, and you're invested specifically in something that could lose 50% of its value, you know, in a matter of weeks, and you lose it, it's really your own fault. So you need to pay attention. You need to make sure that you're keeping track of this stuff. You know, if you got $10,000 here and you take it to an investment advisor and he blows it for you, yeah, it's probably his fault. But if you're talking about, you know, your retirement assets, you really want to make sure that you're thinking about that stuff. Would you guys agree?
Good
Absolutely.
Point. Good point.
Yeah.
So if you have questions, if you're unsure about maybe what you've got, send us an email. It's money@GaryandMike.com. Again, it's money@GaryandMike.com. You can also visit the website with GaryandMike.com.
Good deal.
All right, good. Well, now that I've got that off my chest and I feel better.
Feel better?
It's nice to have a radio show that you can do those sorts of things.
All right, well, good. Well, let's start the program then after your little tirade, and let's talk a little bit about becoming a Florida resident to get out of paying New York State income tax purposes. I don't know why, but in the past couple months, I've had an overwhelming number of clients that have come into my office with letters from New York State, you know, those lovely, fun letters that say, hey, we found out proof that you're a New York State resident. We're going back 3 years, and now you owe us $50,000 for New York State taxes or somewhere around that nature, and then they come in our office and say, can you fight this? Well, it's funny, I actually had one that came in, and he said his whole thing was, well, I don't live in Florida, but I got a P.O. box, and I changed my license to say that, you know, I had a Florida address for the P.O. box, and I said, well, when's the last time you've been in Florida? He said, oh, about 6 or 7 years ago. I took my kids to Disney World. I said, well, that's not going to cut it. There's not much we're going to be able to do as far as fighting that. Now, we can put you on a payment plan to pay that, but, you know, the process gets harder and harder to be able to change that. And what it is, it's called a domicile change. It's not just buying a vacation home in Florida and having an actual residence down there. There's so much that goes into this, and we urge you here at the Mike and Gary Show, if you're going to try to do something like this, call an accountant, call a lawyer, make sure you do the steps right, because I've seen on the back end, it's not good if you haven't done it right.
Can't they call Brian Foster, CPA,
they
as well?
Call Brian,
you know,
Foster,
this would be a bad
CPA.
idea, Brian. While we're on the subject, if somebody needs to get a hold of you, as I mentioned, of course, you're a CPA and also